My name is Lainey Klein-King from the MD-USD Garden Education Program, and welcome everyone to our Wellness and STEM Career Interview Series. These interviews are meant to expose students of all ages to a wide variety of jobs that promote health, well-being, sustainability, as well as careers in science and engineering. I am pleased to introduce today Ms. Doria Robinson, Executive Director of Urban Tilth and co-founder of Cooperative Richmond. Urban Tilth is a food justice organization that provides training, employment, and education through an extensive network of school and community gardens that feed both the bodies and souls of the Richmond community. Cooperative Richmond incubates and supports the startup and success of local worker-owned cooperatives. Ms. Robinson is not only an executive director, but she is a committed activist dedicated to racial economic justice, sustainable food systems, and environmental justice. Doria, what were some of your early influences that led you into the field of food and environmental justice work?
Yeah, I think most definitely the biggest influencers were my grandparents. Both sets, my mom's grandparents and my dad's parents, both came from kind of rural settings, where when they got to California, they definitely grew gardens. Well, my grandma was like the green thumb, just plants all over the house and a massive tomato crop every year and like tons of trees in her backyard, fruit trees. And my grandfather, he would always have his garden with peppers and green beans, and he had his garden and my grandma had her garden. And then the two did not mix. And so it was just like a lot of time. She would also bake a lot of things from scratch and make jam. And she grew up in Iowa, and kind of brought that whole thing there. And then on my dad's side, my grandparents came from rural Louisiana, and when they came up here, they did the same thing. They had gardens and whatnot. But I think one of the biggest things that definitely influenced me is my grandfather was actually a minister in the church, local church here. And he came up with a number of different families from Louisiana and Arkansas. And when they got here, they kind of helped each other buy properties, build each other's homes. They were like very kind of came from very poor communities. So like they really did practice kind of collective economics in a way we just don't see today. But one of the biggest things they did was they collectively purchased a ranch in Fairfield, California. So I grew up going up there. It's 350 acres, and still have it to this day. Cows and pigs and chickens and turkeys and rabbits and horses, and they're growing a lot of food. And we just part of my life was that ranch life, like fixing fences and getting eggs and being in that whole world at different pace, living with a lot of people, not just our family, but the
Ah,
whole church family. There's like a bunkhouse and whatnot. And it was just different pace, different lifestyle, cooking for 30, 40 people a night type of thing. And you know and really all day you just worked on the land. Like that's everybody did. Kids had jobs, adults had jobs, everyone had a job. And it did definitely plays a huge influence in what I'm doing now.
so the whole church community took care of the farm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
There's definitely people who had their specialties, like one of my uncles, we always called him a cowboy. He literally had like the cowboy boots and hat. And he was definitely a horseman. It's all about the horses and all about the cows, and then I had, certain people were really into like the rabbits, and other people were into the chickens, and other people were into the garden and farms, and other people like to cook. And so it kind of, people split out and did. Some people like to do like the maintenance work, fix the farm and fix the fences or fix the windmill or, look at the water system. But everybody had their thing. But
You owned
yeah, it
a
was
farm up
multiple
there
things.
just to visit, or did you live up there?
No, I mean Fairfield is just, like 45 minutes away. So we
Mhm.
literally kind of kind of leave on a Friday afternoon, evening after church, and then go up there for the weekend and be up there all weekend and then come back Sunday night. Um, uh, they would have church up there on the farm on the ranch, and then come back and then have the week here like in school, and people had their jobs and whatnot. So it was kind of a weekend thing. And then summers, like definitely all summers, vacations, they had revivals up there. It was a very, you know being the granddaughter of a minister, church church becomes a big part
Right.
of your life. But there's good and bad things about that. um the good things were like learning how to build things together, learning how to live with all different kinds of personalities and build, collectively build things, have a collective vision, and manage like a huge space, and do things like, we were all these kids growing up in Richmond, but on the weekends we had rodeos and rode, horses bareback. It's just not normal,
No, that is not what you
like,
expect growing up in the urban environment.
right. So, there's a lot of lessons learned, definitely. And it definitely influenced what was probably I saw as possible, especially because none of our families had money. Like these were, when I say bunkhouse, I'm not talking pretty Dallas, kind of
Mhm.
mansion places. These are like things built by hands from materials that you got, by luck.
Yeah,
And so yeah, it just really teaches you what's possible, even if you're
absolutely.
not wealthy.
It sounds
And
like it shaped your vision for sure, right?
yeah,
Of what could be possible in
yeah,
Richmond. My
yes.
next question was really, like how how did you come to be the executive director of an organization like Urban Tilth? Like what was your path to getting there?
Right. Well, quite honestly, it was really by accident. I never planned on being an executive director. Probably didn't even really know that that was like a thing that you could be.
Hmm.
You know, um, I was really interested in watershed restoration and kind of environmental justice work. And it was actually after college, came back to Richmond and was working for the Watershed Project, helping to daylight creeks and do watershed restoration work, mostly in Oakland, honestly, in eastern in East Oakland, around Arroyo Viejo Creek. And I felt really fortunate to have that job because I was able to work like in a community of color, in a primarily Black community, doing environmental work, like opening up, these kind of natural spaces right in the middle of an urban context, which I felt like was just needed. People needed
Yeah,
to have these places to heal right next to home where you didn't have to have a car or time off or anything like that to be able to access that. But I was living in Richmond, actually, where I live today, in my great aunt's house, and it's really close to the old Santa Fe Railway lines. That's now the Richmond Greenway, and they had just installed the Richmond Greenway, which at that time was just literally a bike trail. It's just a regional trail,
yep.
and nothing on the sides, and it was just a lot of space, 23 blocks of bike trail with huge swaths of land on either side. And growing up, it was like that railway line that used to be there, um was like the shortcut between where I lived in the Iron Triangle and my grandparents' house, the church in on the south side and on Ohio. And so it was like a very dear place to me, like just
Hmm.
like the shortcut that I wasn't really supposed to take, but it was full of trash and kind of nefarious characters. And and uh and one day I got an email from Park Guthrie, who is the founder of Urban Tilth. I am not the founder. And he had this vision that he shared around the Greenway and what it could be. And it was just a really beautiful vision of, this 23 blocks of gardens and playgrounds and, spaces where people could gather instead of like, kind of growing up, that was always the dividing line between central and south, was like, where where folks kind of warred with each other, not came together, right?
Right.
And so, he just had this very, very beautiful vision of like just transforming that space. And having a garden where it was all berries called Berryland, you could just come up and pick berries and eat them. And you know, and I just thought it was awesome. So I literally immediately wrote back to him and I'm like, I'm in. When do we start? you know, and we had a volunteer meeting in my backyard like that next week. And the first few people who started Berryland, the first garden on the Richmond Greenway, Paula Kristovich and Cassie from Verde Elementary and Park all met in my backyard, and we dreamed it out and started having second Saturday volunteer days from that day forward to this day, 15, 16 years later. Um, and we've also built out, 7 blocks of gardens now, and,
Excellent.
full playgrounds and parks. And other people have brought all kinds of passions to the space, and there's like a dirt park and all kinds of things going on there now. But it started by accident. I got that invitation, I started to volunteer. I started to then go from there teaching an after school program with the Lincoln Elementary School kids,
Yeah.
at the first Berryland garden that grew into the Greenway Community Garden, that grew into the Pollinator Garden, that grew into all these things. And I just kind of kept taking on new roles within Urban Tilth. And it got to a point where Park really felt like the whole nonprofit hustle was a little too much for him. It could be really stressful running a nonprofit organization. And he asked me to come on and help him as co-director initially. And so we did that for about a year and a half. And then he was like, I love Urban Tilth. I love everything that we're doing, but it's not the life for me. So he was like, I'm either going to shut it down or you're going to take over. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm taking over because we wanted to be shut down. And then that's how I became executive director. And uh from that moment forward, it's just like many, many challenges to learn how to do this. you know Kind of trial by fire, learning about accounting and about government regulations and about hiring and managing staffs and putting together proper training programs and all kinds of things. Yeah, that's the honest truth. I could say something else, but it was really that's the way it
Yeah, we
happened.
want your honest truth. So it all started with Berryland.
Yeah. I mean, quite frankly too, I felt like, one of the biggest lessons I learned through this whole journey, of kind of falling into being the leader of this organization was every single thing I have done before the point where I stepped into this role, I have drawn upon and used everything that I actually learned or built on, like, you know, dabbling in photography, like, doing some multimedia work, learning web design, being able to write some code. Every single thing has come in handy for me to learn to use to kind of steer this ship and to be informed in my decision making. So I feel like even though my road was kind of strange and windy and I've, worn a lot of hats, I feel like every single thing that I did has actually helped me, be able to offer the things that I'm able to offer, you know.
So no skill goes to waste when you're an executive director.
No skill goes to waste, and the more you have familiarity or know something about something, the better off you are. 'Cause you
Absolutely.
definitely are asked to be a jack of all trades, or at least to be able to understand and read into and be have some kind of literacy or some kind of understanding of many disciplines.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I love the most about Urban Tilth is that you hire and pay so many young people to work
Mhm.
for you.
Yeah,
Can you tell us what some of the jobs are that the young people do for you at Urban Tilth?
yeah, for sure. I mean, almost 80% of our staff are considered, young people or youth. Um, they do pretty much almost all jobs at Urban Tilth. There's 45 staff currently. Um, and, you know, yeah, a good portion of those are youth, people who are under 30. And so they run our CSA program. They work with farmers to procure vegetables. They run and work on our farm, creating planting plans, taking care of soil, managing the trees, managing the chickens, um, managing all aspects of the farm, and working on all aspects of the farm. They're delivery drivers for our produce boxes. They are box packers. They are communications people who help to tell our story, do our posts on social media, make videos that again tell our story, help to make graphics. They are volunteer coordinators to reach out to community members and, help them find a place within Urban Tilth as a volunteer, or help organize volunteer days, prepping things, getting things ready so that they're fun and that they're safe. There's folks that actually represent us in climate justice arena and meetings, helping to, organize actions around climate justice. So we just did or participated in an action in Oakland, or we did a street mural around kind of a fossil-free future. Uh, and so there was a group of young people who organized that, um, you know, and yeah, they come up with new programs. There's a young person who's been with us since she was in high school. She started in our Richmond High class. We have a class that we teach at Richmond High that we've taught there for almost 13 years now. She started off in the class, and then she got hired on to assist in the class. And then, the year before last, before COVID, she really decided that had a huge interest in herbal medicines and herbs, and the power of herbs to, use for self-care. And so she started an after-school club that she runs, and she designed the whole structure for, called the Healing Movement, that brings kids and teaches them how to be urban herbalistas. So urban herbal medicine users, healers, learn how to make all kinds of self-care products, use it for teas, grow the plants, understand their origins. She designed that whole program, and we funded it so that she could do it.
That's
Um,
amazing. So
yeah,
innovative. That's so creative.
yeah. So, young people do all the things at Urban Tilth. They are the heart of what we do. A lot of our new programs and ideas come from our staff. And yeah.
And how does the training work when you hire young people who are new to the jobs? Do they
Yeah.
train each other, like the young people who've been working
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, some do, definitely. So we have a couple of different ways that folks will come on and kind of get trained up. I think the most frequent way that people kind of become staff members is they start in one of our programs that gives them a really basic knowledge of, kind of all the nomenclature and what the tools are and how to do basic things in terms of growing and everything, that really creates a foundation. And then they will go through our summer youth apprentice program, which is a 6-week training program, that kind of takes everything we do in our year-long class and goes even deeper, with full work days and, really applying all of the kind of more abstract knowledge in the class, to the day-to-day activities of running all of our school and garden farm projects. So then that gives them, really good background, really good foundation. And at that point, they really have the beginnings of a skill set to be a strong staff member. And so we do have like levels of staff. So we have a staff apprentice, which is somebody who has gone through that summer training program. And it's kind of literally apprenticing, like working alongside some of our other staff members, oftentimes youth that are their same age or not too much older. And then after that, they can kind of continue to gain knowledge, continue to gain skills, become a full staff member. And, yeah, a lot of our training is kind of shadowing others. But honestly, we also really invest in our staff. So all of our staff have a fund that they can use for professional development. So they can use that to get other trainings. We have connections to places like Occidental Arts and Ecology Centers. So there's four staff members now who are getting their permaculture design certifications through that program. And so we actually encourage people to reach outside of Urban Tilth as well to expand their knowledge and then bring that back for themselves, for the community, for Urban Tilth, so we're all stronger. And we actively kind of fundraise so we can support people's own professional and personal development. Yeah. And of course, there's, kind of when you get hired, there's onboarding process and, there's a little bit of training that happens there. But I think that we apprentice mostly and then encourage people to, engage with some of our network of outside trainers. And, you know, there's so many things available in the Bay Area to expand your knowledge. So we really encourage people to get out of the box of Richmond and to explore some other things.
Well, absolutely. And it sounds kind of similar to the work that you've done with Co-op Richmond, right? Which helps to start up worker-owned cooperative businesses. Can
Mhm.
you tell us a bit more about how you support young people through Co-op Richmond?
Yeah. I mean, Cooperation Richmond is kind of the next step almost in many ways for Urban Filth. This is like, I feel like, for the first 10 or so years at Urban Tilth, what we did was we, kind of reached out and found young people, but then other people too, who were just under underwhelmed by the world and what it was offering them in terms of
Mhm.
jobs, in terms of possibilities for their life. And we were like, okay, Urban Tilth is this vehicle. We want you to get in this vehicle. We want you to drive somewhere amazing with us. We want you to dream out what your life could be and should be, what the community could be and should be. We want you to help. We want you to learn how to help us transform vacant lots into, you know, gardens and gathering spaces. And what that did was basically really turn on this a couple generations of young people when they have like all these ideas of things that they want to do.
Mhm.
And not all of those ideas had to do with farms and gardens. Not all of those ideas had to do with, growing and distributing food. People had other ideas. They had business ideas that they wanted to start. And we got to a point where we realized that, Urban Tilth really couldn't be that container to help them with those projects. That
Yeah.
we needed a different set of skills. We needed a different set of partners, that could teach, performas and, business accounting, and,
Right.
all the legal requirements and taxes, all these things. And so that's kind of where Cooperation Richmond came from, of trying to take folks who've been with us for a while, who actually have, through all of their work and all the disparate things that they get to do with Urban Health, come up with these pretty amazing ideas. And, because we work really cooperatively, in collectives at Urban Health, it just made sense to support the continued development of businesses that were cooperative. Um, as cooperative worker owned businesses so that people could have a lot of self-determination in the workplace and be a part of decision making, and be co-owners.
Yeah.
So that's what Cooperation Richmond does. It basically helps collectives of people who have an idea for an entrepreneurial project, to get the capital they need, to get the capacity building support, in the form of like consultants, like accountants or legal advice, helping folks develop their business plans so that they can, develop and launch a cooperative business. We also operate a small loan fund, because that's one of the biggest barriers for low income people of color, especially young people, especially people who don't come from wealth. you can't access the capital you need to start an entrepreneurial project if you don't already have it, which is kind of interesting. And so Cooperation Richmond actually has a small loan fund that makes available non-extractive loans, so loans that don't require um, uh, uh, collateral or excellent credit or any credit, in fact. We work with the cooperatives, team up with them, and you do not have to have any of those prerequisites to access capital. You have to have a really good business plan that you're willing to work out and make sure it holds water. You have to have, the time and the interest to push and develop your idea, to the point where it's actually successful and self-sustaining. But you don't have to have collateral and you don't have to have credit.
So is that where you would tell young people to start, is with a business plan?
I would tell young people to start with figuring out what they can do and what they like to do
Hmm.
and what they would like to do, no matter if things were easy or hard. Because starting and owning your own business is not easy.
Right.
It isn't. It's rewarding, you know, but it is not easy.
Yeah.
And so you have to first choose something that you would want to do, no matter if it's extremely difficult and things look bleak, or if things are going great. You have to believe in that thing that you want to do. Um, you have to really believe in it and want to see it in the world. That's where you start. What is it that you really believe in, that you really want to do yourself and see in the world? And you will do whatever it takes to make that happen. You start there. And then from there you figure out, what is the service or product that I'm offering to the community, and how is it unique from what is already being offered? What makes it, important for people to come to me to get it, or to us to get it. And then you just work through your process. You develop a business model canvas, which answers a lot of those questions, of who you are and who you're serving and what makes you different, what makes you unique, what makes what you're offering kind of powerful, that could attract people to support you by buying your product or service. And then from there, you get a business plan. But first,
Right.
you got to start with the passion, or else you're not going to make it through. It's hard.
It's too hard otherwise.
Yep.
Good advice. Well, this is a tough question because you wear a lot of hats, but if you had to pick one or two aspects of your work that you're most proud of, what would they be?
Mm. I think definitely the work that we do with young people and have done for the last 15 years. Um, Many of the young people that we first started working with are not young people anymore. They're like, moms and dads, and, taking up roles within Richmond's culture, right? They're teaching at the schools, they're, psychologists at the schools, they're, serving on the board of new nonprofits, starting new nonprofits, seeing them in community, making and leading their own change. That is not something we really predicted when we started this. Maybe we hoped for it in some way, but we definitely didn't see that coming. And to see it happening, all around, to keep running into Urban Tilth, former Urban Tilth kids,
Yeah.
now adults, like really playing strong, positive roles in society is really moving and really powerful and makes it all worthwhile, like all the hard stuff. And I think the other thing is like just transforming space, you know? Like we it took us about 5 years to work through the process of getting a grant to build out the iteration of the Richmond Greenway that folks see today, of the Unity Park and the playground there and the basketball courts and all the rebuilt gardens with like proper infrastructure and everything. It was not an easy process. It was not an easy process to deal with the city and deal with the state and deal with all the competing, interests and whatnot. But I tell you, one thing that made it all worthwhile was like on opening day, when I stood in a place that used to be just a big vacant lot with broken glass and piles of trash everywhere. That's what it used to be. And I was standing in the middle of a new fruit tree orchard, on a path that didn't exist, that, canal connected, the Richmond BART to the community. So people didn't have to cut a hole through a fence in the vacant lot. And a kid, is just like running past me towards, kind of past his dad. And he asked his dad, can I go play in the park? And
Oh,
his dad was like, yes. And I was saying to myself, well, now you can, because that park didn't exist before, you know? And that's not, you would have been playing in the trash strewn, filled, glass filled field before. And now you have a park. And I think I'm really proud of that part of our work. Like he has a new normal, to his childhood that we didn't have.
right. He can take it for granted that
Yeah,
he has that
take it for
beautiful
granted.
space.
It's okay.
That's awesome. Yes, absolutely. You want the young people to take it for granted, right?
Right. They should
Yeah.
be able to just feel free and just run and play.
Right, because they deserve it, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's, yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you sharing about your work. I'm so inspired by what you do at Urban Tilth, and I feel like the work that you do with young people gives a really nice blueprint for what's possible, and how to access those passions that young people have, bring them to fruition. So, yeah, I just want to thank you for your time, Doria, and look forward to hearing about the work that you're doing on the new farm.
More exciting things to come, hopefully.